Good morning, members of the media. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, those of you joining us from outside of Tobago and across the diaspora this morning. Let me start by apologizing for my voice. Sometime earlier this week, in fact, from about Sunday night, started losing the voice. I did the COVID test and it returned negative. Notwithstanding, I have been ensuring that I still keep healthy distance, as I do seem to be battling some sort of flu. So apologies for the voice at the very start, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear. I want to start this press conference by bringing to your attention some issues that were dealt with, particularly at the Executive Council meeting that was held yesterday. Number one, we discussed extensively yesterday the matter with the airport and the residents that are affected and that are required to move, and the residents, in particular those that receive letters requiring them to move by the 15th of September. I will have you know that tomorrow, Friday, there should be a court hearing tomorrow rather, and more than likely, coming out of that hearing tomorrow, we will get a sense of which direction this issue is turning to. I will let you know that the residents, those that are affected at this present time, they have asked the court for an extension of 6 months. The Tobago House of Assembly agreed with that extension of 6 months because that will allow us the opportunity to, in the most humane way, facilitate people being moved. I could tell you that the state agencies from out of Trinidad, they have not agreed with the 6 months, so it's left to see what the court will decide. But notwithstanding what the court will decide, there are some things that the THA, this Executive Council, has decided that we will do in an effort to ensure that those who are affected will be treated in the most humane manner. I told you some time ago that we have 3 units, 3 houses that are available to those in immediate need. I could tell you that by tomorrow those houses will be ready for occupation by tomorrow, Friday. We really worked hard on that, and we should congratulate the Division of Infrastructure for doing that. The executive yesterday also took a decision to engage to get some storage solutions for the residents that will have to move. That too will facilitate an effortless flow for those that as they eventually get to move. The Division of Infrastructure is also working assiduously to complete works that were started previously and remain incompleted to this day. We're talking about the development down at Cove and at Shervan, and ensuring that those are ready for occupation by the residents who may have to move. Additionally, we are looking to see if we can construct within the shortest possible time 50 units that will help to alleviate that situation as a matter of emergency. Now, the Division of Infrastructure is treating with all of these issues attendant to the residents in Crown Point and those that have to move or who will have to move. Now, remember, the THA position has been consistently that one, we agree we do need a new terminal. However, we feel strongly that the residents must be treated fairly, they must be compensated fairly, and they must be given sufficient time in which they can move. The residents, I think the group of about 7 that were issued letters, they have asked the court and asked the state agencies for a leniency of 6 months, which will facilitate their effortless move. I could tell you that some of those that are in the court case have actually finally agreed on some of the compensation that they are given. So we had some movement on that front, where some families have agreed to accept what was offered because they think that that price was good, and there are others who have not yet agreed but are engaging in the negotiation because they think that what is being offered is insufficient. While all of that is happening, I wish to take this opportunity again to appeal to the central government and the ministers involved and the Prime Minister to ensure that we allow for the most humane movement of people. We are talking about taking lands from families and in other words, dispossessing them and turning them out on the streets. And we have to be careful that in this process that we don't destroy the social fabric of that Crown Point area. Be that as it may, I shouldn't move on from this issue without, sharing with you one of the stories shared by one of the residents who eventually accepted the offer. He said to me that his family had to give up lands for where the current terminal is sometime in the 1980s. And his family, they weren't compensated. They haven't received their compensation as yet. His parents are now dead. And so he was fearful that the same thing will happen again. He has now accepted because he thinks the offer that is being given to him now is a fair offer, and that check was lodged with the courts. So he has that assurance, and so he decided that he will move accordingly because he now accepts the offer. But they are asking for leniency of about 6 months because some individuals, it's not just about packing up. Some want to save things like the windows or the roofing and some critical material components that they believe will assist them in their rebuild. And so we support that call by the court from members of the area for the additional 6-month window that is being requested by the residents that are there. So again, we expect that court case sometime tomorrow. The residents have asked the court and asked the state agencies for a 6-month leniency. We in the THA agree with them because we feel in that 6 months we could complete the works at Cove and Shervan. We can even take on the gargantuan task of getting some housing units completed in time to facilitate them. And so we wish to, no doubt, also reiterate their call and their ask for that 6-month window. Also, please note, and moving on now, please note that the works at the Castara Road is well underway, and the roadway is open throughout the day today and well into the night to facilitate the activities there in Castara. Part of the Independence celebration was to take place in Castara last week Thursday. That was not possible because the road was impassable at the time, but they have done an amazing job thus far. I was there on Tuesday morning with the workers looking at the work that they have done. And let me pause to commend the actual employees in the Division of Infrastructure. Because it's not private contractors doing the bulk of the work. Now we have to engage private service providers to get equipment to do the work. But it's really the division's employees that are doing this great piece of engineering on that Castara Road. And it reminds me that this administration is on the right path in terms of entrusting some of our biggest engineering challenges to the actual employees in the division of work, the Division of Infrastructure. We all accustomed calling them works. The Division of Infrastructure, because they are proving that they can work even in such emergencies. And not only is the roadway in Castara there receiving some attention, but where we are experiencing that significant depression on the link road between Roxborough and Bloody Bay, that too is receiving some attention. There are tower lights there now, so that motorists will be safe driving through that area in the night. And so I needed to bring that to your attention. The also discussed yesterday at executive is the fact that the Bloody Bay Beach facility the facility there has to be closed, and it has to be closed because it's in a serious state of disrepair. The division is preparing to do all the repairs that are necessary, but unfortunately we have had to close it for the safety of workers and visitors to this space. So we have had to take a decision about the beach facility in Bloody Bay. The truth is, 2 years and some elapsed without any significant maintenance works on several of our institutions. And it's just like if you have a house and you leave it unattended for too long, then it depreciates and it falls into itself. Similarly, we find that a lot of our public physical spaces, and so now that we are here, we have found that we have to expend a lot of resources in repairing what was not fixed over a period of time. We are also looking to improve the equipment stock at infrastructure, because that too is a very, very, very critical component in getting the work done. You will notice that over the last 9 months, this administration has patched more holes than holes were patched over the last probably 5, 7, 8, 10 years. Holes patching all over the place. You're driving one day and you're dropping in a big hole, and you may go on Facebook and comment, and you're driving next day and you forget the hole was even there. And that's because the SMART program is really smart and efficient in helping us in geolocating these road infrastructure issues and working on them. However, we are challenged, and let me put that out there. We are challenged. Getting bitumen is a problem across the entire country, and we're not getting it as fast as we would like to get it. But with whatever little we have and the limping spreaders and so on that we have, we are pushing ahead where that is concerned. Let me also bring to your attention that the executive took a decision that we will have some road infrastructure, some new road infrastructure being put in time for the end of October, in time for the carnival season. And now this is bigger, this is huge, because if it's one thing this administration has been good at, is delivering on some very short timelines. And we're talking about some road infrastructure that will allow for ease of mobility even during the carnival. But these are road infrastructure challenges that we have had for the longest while. Number one, for the longest while since Hot Choy Charles, there was a plan to put a road, a bypass, as it were, going from Shervan somewhere around the traffic light there and exiting out on that Strawberry Local Road to facilitate ease of transfer to the airport. That will be done in short order. In fact, I am advised that letters of award will go out tomorrow, I believe. Letters of award will go out tomorrow, and we're looking at a design bill format where the THA will pay back for these roads across a 4-year period. So that road infrastructure from the beginning of Shervan there, all the way down, coming up, busting out to take you straight on the road to the airport, that should be done over the next month and a half. Additionally, when we go down to Four Roads, you call it. I mean, I'm a countryman, I know Tongue Road so good. So excuse me if I don't know the correct names of the streets. Gaskin Bay Road, that's correct, Gaskin Bay Road. We're talking about what we call Four Roads down at Calvary Road Church down in the back there. We're looking to do a connector road taking you across on the other side, because what that will essentially allow for is that we will now have two roadways that act as almost like wings to the central artery in the middle. It means that someone will be able to get to and from the compound area on the left-hand side, going through Shervan and going all the way down. And it means someone could get all the way down on the right-hand side by going through, I think, Friendship Extension it is called, right by the garage there, and going all the way down on the right-hand side to the other extreme of Crown Point. Certainly that will assist with the carnival route as they announced, because they're looking to use the main artery in the center for their J'ouvert, but it will allow for free flow of traffic on both sides while the carnival events or the festivities on that Saturday morning occur along the artery in the center. But that will also help for overall traffic management in that area. And you very well know what it's like getting to and from that area in peak hours in the day, especially if you have to catch a flight or something of that sort, or some emergency, or you're trying to catch penny savers before they close. Trust me, I've had that experience. So that will certainly ease some of the traffic going down in the center. Additionally, finally, I advise that the workers in the Division of Infrastructure, the division itself, will take on that road going from Lamy Road in Argyle, coming all the way back out towards Roxborough Secondary School in the back there. That road, it's not paved, it requires some work. In fact, I can recall probably about sometime in the middle of COVID, we had a situation where there was an accident somewhere around by Pablo and they had to cut off any sort of movement from the main road in Roxborough. And we caught, we antenna and then everything to pass through the back there. Traffic congestion took hours to get through. That will be a thing of the past because that road network connecting Argyle in the back there will also be opened up in time for the end of October. What that will facilitate is, of course, the farmers in the back there. It will facilitate emergency runs. It will help those who will be involved in the night mass in Roxborough. All the traffic can be diverted through that road in the back, and everywhere from where the bank is thereabout in Roxborough all the way back down to Argyle can be utilized freely for the night mass, and that will facilitate the movement of traffic seamlessly all the way in the back, coming across by the Police Youth Club and down Station Hill by the gas station there. Again, yes, we're having carnival, but the investment of the THA is not just for people to come and jump up, but is to invest in critical infrastructure works that will facilitate the ease of traffic long after carnival is done. And of course, there's a final piece of work that we are trying to accomplish in the period, and this piece of work is to connect Scarborough RC across to Sangsters Hill in the back there. That will allow for, again, movement of traffic off of the Milford Road, off of the road in front of Esplanade, which means that you can easily drive from Montgomery, go all the way across the Sangsters Hill without having to utilize the Milford Road at the front. Again, this will also help with traffic management in the Scarborough area. And before they say it, yes, we know that there was always a plan to do a connector road somewhere by Scarborough RC going across, but some people could only plan and others can execute. That's the nature of the business that we are in. And so we are happy for those critical road infrastructure works that will be done in the most timely manner. So Secretary James and Assistant Secretary Sampson, they have quite a bit of work cut out for them over the next month and a half with regards to these critical pieces of infrastructure. And just for some additional information, I want to inform you, I will remind you that the CPEP interviews, they commence next week. I am also advised those workers in URP that have been waiting with bated breath for the increase, don't worry, you'll get a nice little back change. Use it wisely, save it up for Christmas. But I'm advised that the pay slips and so on that have been done this week will reflect the changes. There were some administrative issues that the division needed to work out, All of those issues have been worked out, and so at your next salary, you should receive the increase from the division. That has been taken care of. The monies needed for it was sent to the division a while now, so we know that you're set, right? You're set, URP workers. Just a quick reminder that we are about ready to start with the cataract surgeries. So if you have not applied just yet, you may have a final chance to do so, because we want to completely clear that backlog. The teachers within the ECCE system, that's the Early Childhood Care and Education System, your regularization continues. In fact, we did quite a bit of motivational work and support work with these teachers, but your regularization in terms of your contract employment and so on, that's being finalized. Also, the maxi taxi issues, not only were they resolved, but maxi taxi drivers have begun signing their contracts. And this might be the first year and the first time in donkey years, or probably ever, forever, in the first time ever, that they actually will have written contracts to be signed, so they get some sense of security and tenancy and recognition of the work that they're doing. So that is critical and important. We are also preparing to reopen the two pools being operated by YMCA by the end of October. The pools were in serious state of disrepair. I must thank a parent that wrote to me. That parent, I think Dr. Alfred is her name. Dr. Alfred sent me a letter. And Dr. Alfred, if you're hearing this, thank you for your letter, and we do acknowledge your letter and your concern. You did write about the pools and the need for help, because this is a critical part of our co-curricular activities for children. Our CXC students utilize the pools as well, and of course we're talking about the seniors and other forms of health and sport wellness. And so the pools will be reopened, the two pools will be reopened by the end of October. The work has started already. The pool up at Argyle was in a much more terrible state than the one in Blackrock. In fact, the one at Argyle was experiencing leaks. Kendall, gosh, like I stayed in town too long. The one in Kendall was experiencing significant leakage. We're talking about the roof was caving in on itself, vines growing all over. Because you see, when we had the lockdown, people just literally locked down and stopped attending to these facilities. And it speaks to a larger issue we have throughout the THA, where there is a requirement for us to have proper maintenance scheduling for our facilities, because it always costs more on the back end to do these repairs. So the pools will be ready by the end of October. Work started already and work is ongoing as we speak. The awards of contracts for the Speyside and the Lowlands multipurpose centers, those were issued, and so works will begin at both the Lowlands and the Speyside Community Center. Allow me to pause for a second and say this. These two new centers, I mean, they call them multipurpose centers, community centers, same thing. These two new centers are relatively new. They are some of the newest centers in the space. The only centers perhaps newer than the one at Speyside and Lowlands will be the one at Belgarden, I believe that, and the one at Louis D'Or. Those were constructed afterwards. But they're all relatively new. I don't even think that they reach 10 years old. And we have situation where all the tiles popping up in the centers, the roofs leaking, and all of these things. And that speaks to a whole other issue about how we do our construction and the due diligence that is required from divisions. And I'm asking divisions, and in fact I'm instructing divisions, when you give these contracts, you have to let your engineers and so on follow up to ensure that we are getting quality work for the monies that we are paying for them. So we're fixing the Speyside and Lowlands Center, and hopefully very soon the respective communities will have access to their centers. And while that is happening, the division is working out its policy for returning these centers to their communities and how communities will manage and operationalize their centers, which means that you won't have to come to town to make a booking for a center all the way up in the country, right? We have to empower communities, and we are working on doing that, and that's why you're seeing all of the village councils having new elections. I am happy to announce that finally, after many years, I am no longer the Secretary of Speyside Village Council because they had their election about 2 weeks ago. So finally, I was replaced after many years. So happy to know that. The Goodwood High School Library, after 6 years of not being operational, 6 years, for 6 years, the Goodwood High School did not have an operational library because they had issues with molding, they had issues with leakage, all sort of story. The Goodwood High School Library is finally available and ready for reopening, and the students now have the benefit of a library there. And I think that too is commendable of the Division of Education, Research and Technology. The school repairs are ongoing for low priority areas. So what happened is that there were some high priority areas addressed during the July-August period. The low priority areas will be ongoing, leading right up into the Christmas vacation. And again, we will treat some other high priority areas in the Easter period. Now, let me tell you what makes Scarborough Secondary so special. Scarborough Secondary is special because to get a new school built for Scarborough Secondary School, it will not happen in 1 year. It will not even happen in 2 years, as we were advised by the Caribbean Development Bank that we are working with to fund this project. And so we took a decision that if the students and the teachers have to work in that environment for more than a year again, that we have to do some critical renovations on that building to make it habitable and safe for the students. No decision was taken by the THA as to what will happen to the facility when the school moves out. But more than likely, the THA will not go in and bulldoze and break it down and just leave the land. We will repurpose the facility accordingly and with appropriateness. And so, indeed, we try the impossible task of doing the most possible for Scarborough Sec. During the July-August vacation, it didn't quite work out. And even as we were doing work, more things were being uncovered. So, for example, the sixth form block, that is one of the newest blocks in Scarborough Secondary. As they were doing work there, they're realizing that some of the steel framing and so on all corroded, rot away, and now wholly unsafe. So that has, those beams and so on had to be replaced. That's a much larger task than we bargained for. Remember, this is a school that has a brand new wing that cannot be used. And the brand new wing cannot be used because we gave some man that is not really a contractor, I understand he's a minister of government now, to do that piece of work, and it's shoddy work, and he take money and gone with the money. That's what happened there. But those are the issues with Scarborough Sec, and we want to ensure. I gave the teachers, the members of faculty, I gave the students a commitment last academic year. In fact, I visited them a couple times, well, even visited them to carry fans and so on for students, and I gave them a commitment that when they return to school, they will have much more habitable conditions in which they can operate. And that's why Scarborough Secondary is the lone school still out there unopened, but they will be, I'm advised they'll be ready to go as of Monday. The division will have a larger press conference to treat with the issue of the results from CSEC O-levels and CAPE, but at the moment we're seeing slight improvements in CAPE, but we are also seeing a decline in the grades in the CSEC O-levels. And of course, that's understandable given what we just experienced. I think somebody somewhere needs to take all our children and give them a nice big hug and tell them, look, you tried your best. Because we had children and teachers, some of the teachers not even very tech savvy, not even understanding the right pedagogy to go along with teaching virtually as opposed to teaching face-to-face. We have children at home frustrating the parents quarreling, they want to eating down the house, they're there, they don't know what to do, they want to go out, they want to lime, they want their friends. And under all of these circumstances, our children try their best, and in some cases, it just wasn't enough. And so we have to have a program of work to bring our young people back up to speed. Notice that when we launch our program, impact program for those at the SEA level and the primary school level, we did not launch a program to run for 1 month or for 2 months. We launched a program that will be ongoing, because there's no way 2 months can correct what happened in 2 years. And so unlike the national plan, we have a consistent and continuous program of work to treat with our children that struggle through this period, have poor grades, and must now be facilitated. It's just something that we have to work with our young people on and treat with them on and ensure that they have this done well. And you will also have next week, after the carnival launch, the secretaries in tourism, quality, antiquities, and transportation, they will come and address you and give you more of the build-out for the carnival that is to come and what will be happening. However, you should note that the thing picking up plenty steam. If I might say so myself, I will be praying for you all from somewhere in camp. I'll be definitely praying for you all. So don't worry, there will be no opportunities to wine on the chief sec, but I'll be certainly praying for you all while you are enjoying the festivities. But at the moment, we have some 17 bands registered that's mass bands for the main day, which is a Sunday, and that is more bands than Scarborough sees in any given average February carnival. We also seeing perhaps more interest than we could probably manage with the Juve. The night mass as well is seeing significant interest, and already, instead of having interdepartment, the divisions themselves are preparing to represent themselves as divisions at the night mass up at Roxborough. And so you're seeing a lot of movement in the space. Promoters have gone ahead and have engaged artists from far and wide, and I'm made to understand one private promoter has gone as far as somewhere to the continent to engage. That's not my business to announce, but the private promoter will deal with that when that time comes. And so finally, I want to move to an issue that I'm certain has allowed quite a number of members of the media to be here today. You ain't trickling in 2 and 3, but you're coming in your numbers, and I've seen the hands raising even before question time. So I know that's why you're here, but I needed to dispense with a lot of those issues, those developments within the space. In particular, some updates further to what I gave last week on what's happening down in the Crown Point area, and the position of the residents, the position of the Chief Secretary, and how we are trying to work together to ensure that their burdens are lifted. Now, we all saw a video presentation from the Deputy Chief Secretary from somewhere in Brooklyn late yesterday evening online. And I want to bring some clarity to this space. So all and sundry will be very mindful of the THA's commitment to the Roxborough folk performers, and I will also speak a bit to the THA's policy in terms of assisting and helping groups that need assistance, whether it's to travel or whether it is for some engagement in and out of the Tobago space. In fact, even yesterday we were discussing a group of young people who are in the DR, the Dominican Republic, as we speak. They're in the Dominican Republic representing Tobago in sports. and the tickets and pay for, they trust the travel agency. And so they're coming to us for assistance. And you have to understand as well, with COVID and the nature of the Tobago business community, sometimes getting that assistance is difficult, and the only option is really and truly the Tobago House of Assembly to provide assistance. And so the Roxborough Folk Performers approached the Tobago House of Assembly for assistance because they had several engagements that they were called out for to perform in and around the tri-state area in New York, in and around the Labor Day festivities. And we felt, yes, this marries nicely with our push for involving and engaging members of the diaspora. And if you heard the Deputy Chief Secretary speak at Tobago Day, you will hear him speak to a lot of the issues members of the diaspora are facing, and the fact that we need to engage them much more, and we want you members of the diaspora to return home and invest in your island. In fact, you should be our first set of people, the first group of people in line to invest in your island, Tobago. And so we said, okay, that marries nicely. We had a group of entrepreneurs, in fact, agro-processors that went out to New York before, and they did some work. We have fashion designers who are going. The group of entrepreneurs didn't ask the THA for monetary assistance, but they asked us to assist in talking with the embassy for them to get visas, and that was provided. We have a group of fashion designers who will be featured within the New York Fashion Week, and they will even have a Tobago booth there. Young fashion designers, they are doing that, representing their island, Tobago. And of course, we had the Roxborough Folk Performers that had these engagements to perform in New York. I had a meeting with the principals at Roxborough Folk Performers, led by Mrs. Vanilla Allen Toppin, about 2 months or so ago. She attended a meeting with 3 other members of the team. In fact, it was a team of about 30 desiring to go to New York. 27 eventually went. When I met with Mrs. Allen Toppin, I indicated clearly that the THA could not fund 100% of them getting to and from New York. Well, not just getting to and from New York, but 100% of the entire trip. I was assured then that they weren't looking for the THA to give 100%. They were looking for the THA to help get them there. They raised with me that their priority area, of course, would be getting tickets to get to New York and to get there on time. They too had visa challenges to the point where many members of the team only got through with their visas last week, and they traveled on Saturday and Sunday. So think about that, getting through with your visa a mere 48 hours or so before having to travel, which is a really tight timeline. And for groups wishing to travel, especially to the US, you have to understand that at this time, the US, I'm not speaking on behalf of the embassy, but the embassy has quite a backlog of people trying to get appointments because they were closed for some years. And so it's not a given that if the THA writes and asks that somehow you will magically get the visa. No, it doesn't work like that. The issuing of visas from the embassy is the sole priority and prerogative of the US embassy and the employees there. That's not a THA business at all. But anyway, some of them got their arrangements done, the visas last week. And so 27 left between Saturday, some left on Saturday, some left on Sunday. The timelines were so tight that there was no way the THA could have issued any checks for their departure. And in any case, this administration has a policy where we prefer to pay invoices as opposed to just giving monies to groups. So you come as a group and you say, okay, I need assistance to get some balls or to get some uniforms, or I need assistance to go to Trinidad. Instead of giving you the group the money to go and do it, we prefer to pay for the service, because what we have found is that sometimes you give groups monies and they don't go anywhere. or less people than they tell you will be going actually attended, and no accountability is given for the extra sums of monies and that kind of thing. And so it's a similar arrangement. But because the timelines were so short, we had to eventually give a promissory note to the travel agency that we will settle the bill in order for them to be able to leave here. Before the team left here, Mrs. Allen Toppin assured us that she had their accommodation booked and everything was in place for where they were to stay. Sometime on Sunday, I was alerted by the head of team, that's the group that hosts the Tobago Day and the Tobago festivities in New York every year. I was alerted by the president of that group that they came in, they were calling the host at the bed and breakfast, and they got no answer. They got there in the night and they just couldn't get into the place. The place was locked up, and eventually a church rescued them and allowed them to sleep in the church for the night. So when I heard that, I said, but we can't, notwithstanding the fact that I said to this group, we can't fund all of your exploits in the US. I said, you know what? We can't allow Tobagonians to sleep on the streets. By this time on Sunday, somebody gave them a basement that was not prepared to host visitors, and certainly not 27 visitors. So, be that as it may, I worked out an arrangement with the president of team that we would provide some accommodation for them. That accommodation for the entire group came up to $9,000 US, which we gave a commitment to pay. And we had someone in the US pay it on our behalf with the hope of being refunded by the THA. And of course, that is risky because you know the THA does operate. When THA owe you money, it takes long to give her your money. But be that as it may, that was all in an effort to ensure that this team in the US, the Roxborough Folk Performers, that they were able to at least find some place decent to sleep and be able to go on their errands and meet their appointments, the appointments that were required for them across the period that they were there. Because at the end of the day, they are Tobagonians out there. And let me correct a misconception. The THA did not send them. The THA sponsored their trip to the US. If the THA is to send anybody to the US, the THA has to pay per diem per person. We know that. So we did not send them, but we sponsor them. And I'll tell you how this experience will result in some policy changes. You see, you live and you learn. Now, I will tell you that for the flights to and from New York and their accommodation together, everything so far comes up to $400,417.50. So this is a $400,000 commitment from the THA to this single group. Remember, we also have several other groups, and I already explained that to them because we have groups you need to give some subsidies to. I'm looking at Tobago football, I'm looking at cricket, and I'm saying we need to increase the amount of subsidies to these organizations so that they can run their activities well. We have groups traveling all over the place, and we're trying to help some here, some there, but for nobody are we trying to give 100% of the cost. We're trying to help. And so yesterday at around 5:34 p.m., yesterday at 5:45 p.m., while we were just rounding up Executive Council meeting yesterday evening, the Deputy Chief Secretary called and indicated that some of the members, that they're struggling to be able to purchase food. And so I said, but how is that the case? Because if you're a group and you're going, and I communicated to you in person that we're sponsoring this thing, I would think that for the things that we're not covering, you will try to cover yourself. But then he indicated that, of course, when they came in and the place they booked wasn't available, and I, in fact, spoke to Mrs. Allen Toppin after I spoke with the DCS, and she indicated that the host of the facility where they were supposed to sleep at only called sometime the next day to say that she was at a party somewhere and didn't hear the phone ringing. Right? We did not make any bookings for anybody because it's not a THA-owned trip. It's Roxborough folk performers going out to New York. Yes, they're representing Tobago there, and that is what justifies us giving them some support. But certainly, it has to be with good measure. But notwithstanding, the DCS called and complained about the fact that while they could not find accommodation, some of the members used their monies to go and pay for some places to stay, and so now they were running short of monies for their own meals. Mrs. Allen Toppin indicated to me that they traveled to and from each of the places for performance. That travel is being taken care of the hosts of these events. And I think they were even at some function for the Guyanese recently as well. So not just Tobago-based functions they're at, but across the Caribbean. So the hosts are providing their transportation and they receive meals wherever they go to perform. Subsequent to that conversation with the Deputy Chief Secretary, I took it upon myself again to call the head of team and said to him, look, the people there and some of them, they're having some challenges getting some food. Do you have anybody within your organization that is a certified caterer, registered caterer, at least to provide 1 or 2 meals to them? A good breakfast and maybe something light in the evening, because if they're out during the day performing, then they have no need for lunch or breakfast, lunch where they are. And where we eventually got for them to stay is a place that is not providing complimentary breakfast. Let me say that. So they really and truly have to pay for whatever they need to eat while they're there. I eventually got that quote sometime after 8, after 9 last night, while I was in yet another meeting, because after I left Exec Council that hour yesterday evening, eventually left the office after 7, I still went to another meeting. In fact, yeah, close to 8 o'clock, I still went to another meeting that finished after 10 in the night. And perhaps that is why I'm struggling to get the voice back. I need to take a little sleep somewhere. But be that as it may, so I'm trying to work this thing out so at least they get some sense of relief. I went to the extreme of starting to call some people to now beg on their behalf. Because if you know how the THA works, the THA has no cash sitting down nowhere about to take up and go on Western Union to anybody. The THA is not in a position that you could just get up and say, here, look, cash. That's not how it works. All the spend must be contingent on Executive Council minutes that will give the authority for the spend. All. And so outside of an Exec Council minute to authorize this new engagement, and I have to tell you, to facilitate the accommodation, I had to bounce it off the executive in order to be able to facilitate that decision. It can't just be, I just decided we're going to spend the money. That's all. I'm Secretary of Finance. That is not how it works. Certainly not in my administration. Maybe before, but not now. Maybe in another place, but not here in Tobago. That is not how that works. Due diligence is required, and there are some procedural steps that must be followed. We campaigned on this matter, and I am holding firm on this matter. If it then followed the standard procedure that is required by law, I am not approving it. I am not supporting it. End of story. End of story. Because I spent way too many hours campaigning against that kind of behavior. And so, sometime as my meeting last night was rounding up, and people sending me this video clip of the Deputy Chief Secretary delinking himself from the executive and somewhat making it seem as if the THA has been wicked and punishing this group was certainly surprising, given that we had a conversation just as the Executive Council meeting was coming to an end, and given that I explained thoroughly what the facts of the situation were, and the fact that yes, maybe we can try to do something, but it cannot come from out of the THA coffers, because We just don't have that kind of facility for that kind of emergency spend. We will have to try to get it other ways. And me calling around and begging people and say, give me some money here to send to them, give me some money here to send to them, is in fact, I think, the much more honorable way to do this. Because not only are we just secretaries, but the truth is, we are representatives first. This is what we know, you know. I spent, 5 years doing this, calling around and begging people for stuff, because we have no resources to do it. So calling around and asking people to chip in here and there is not new to my skill set. And so certainly they will get the assistance to get some meals. But it cannot be that a deputy chief secretary will mount a public platform and will moot points that really and truly goes against the very facts of the matter. And I cannot attest to what motivated this. And in fact, I don't even care to theorize about what motivated this. But one thing I know for sure is that so long as I'm here as chief secretary, there is one chief secretary in this space, one leader in this space, there is one team in this space, and we move as a team, and we will be taking decisions in accordance with what the law says. Full stop. Full stop. And so there will be no deviation from that whatsoever. And so I hope you recall that during the campaign, I made every single one of those members, I asked them to be here today. Look at their faces. Is everybody look nice? I asked every single one of them to sign a code of conduct. And in that code of conduct, there is a requirement that we will all operate in accordance with the law and in accordance with standard principles that are required of us. All of us. And the night of that meeting when that was signed, one of the foregoing questions, in fact, the biggest elephant in the room was the question of whether or not a chief secretary that is not the leader of a party will be able to discipline his leader should his leader fall out of line. And I made it lucidly clear on that night. You could be leader, you could be captain, or you could be cook, or even crook. Once you're part of this team, I am holding you up by those standards. And so today, I am holding the DCS up by those standards. I want to make it very publicly clear that immediately post this press briefing, a review of the DCS's portfolio and the assignments or the areas assigned to him will be done. And I assure you, before the end of the weekend, you will get some press release indicating what the decision is insofar as treating with the unfortunate and the ill-advised briefing of the DCS in New York that went very ultra what the actual facts are. The facts are that to date, we have assisted this group to the tune of $400,417.50. And so nobody could argue that perhaps the administration not kind to Roxborough people or the administration not kind to people from one district, as I see some other crazy people in this space saying, we treat everybody equally and with parity. Let me remind you of the areas under the purview of the Deputy Chief Secretary as was approved. Those areas include 1, intergovernmental relations, and that has to do with treating with the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, in particular between ministries and divisions of the THA, and ensuring that those intergovernmental relations, that those remain intact, and especially where we have some of those 6 scheduled items that provide for services to be done in Tobago that are still not completed in Tobago. That matter is a matter that the DCS should be working to fix. the DCS also has responsibility for diaspora relations. And that's because when we campaigned, we made a pledge that for the first time in the history of the THA in almost 42 years, will be what, 42 years this year, we actually will be making a concerted, a deliberate, and a strategic effort in reaching out to members of the diaspora, in ensuring that we keep them close and that they feel like they could come home and participate in the Tobago economy. Also under his purview is foreign direct investments, or FDI. So he has the opportunity to court as many investors as we need on this island. We need investors for hotels. We need investors to partner with us on major public infrastructure, for housing works, for marinas. We don't believe for a second that we could do it on our own. And given what might be the intention of those in Trinidad, we may never get the kind of budgetary allocation for capital development as we will need. And so we needed to have someone in the most disciplined manner attract for Tobago FDIs. We also built in, for the first time within the THA system, a THA-wide policy monitoring and evaluation unit under the purview of the DCS, which means that the DCS should be going across the divisions, checking up on the policy decisions made at the executive and ensuring that they're being implemented. Because I could tell you in this space, it have things that we approve as an executive since January, February, and all now it can't get done yet. All now, people have notes sitting down on the desk, authorities sitting down on the desk, just not doing the people work. And so having that kind of robust M&E will result in ensuring that when we pass decisions at the executive, somebody's going on the back end and following through. He was also given an energy bureau. So we separated the energy bureau from the division that treats with natural resources because we felt that that was so critical to Tobago's argument for autonomy, so critical to Tobago's argument for greater subventions from out of central government, that needed to get some attention, right? And of course, he will have his regular administrative support. All of this under the purview of the DCS. These are the areas of responsibility assigned to the DCS. And I will say as of now, I will be reviewing all of those responsibilities to ensure that they are in line with our mandate and thrust for making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. That review certainly is within my purview as your Chief Secretary, because I'm the only person authorized by law at this moment to decide what responsibilities are given to which secretaries. So therefore, under my responsibility, I will review those responsibilities assigned to him, and by tomorrow, I will let you know what responsibilities he will have, if any at all. That's a decision I will be making before the end of the day and after I have conversation with the rest of the team. But we cannot have people speaking on truths in the space, people misleading the public about some critical things. Because if you listen to the DCS, you will assume that we just put them on a plane and send them out there and gave nothing. I'm sure all of you looking now, all of you are shocked to know that the assistance is to the tune of $400,000. All of you. That is a lot. Some groups don't even get that much. In fact, some groups don't even require or ask for that much. So that is a lot. But we understand that in order for Tobago to move, we have to shift some of our policies. In the past, we placed all our marketing efforts for the island into one basket, which is the basket under tourism. All our efforts. We pay marketing companies big money. We pay Virgin and BA big money. We pay all sorts of big money, and nobody coming here. The numbers of international visitors, the international visitor arrivals, have been low, considerably low, considering that our efforts. Granted, what we spend on marketing the island is not even a quarter of what our nearest competitors like Barbados and Grenada spend. They spend tens of millions US dollars. we spent a few million TT dollars. But we took a decision that to market this island, the front for that marketing effort cannot just be out of tourism. Part of that marketing effort must also include the diaspora. And that's why we are happy, very happy to engage members of the diaspora. We are excited to engage you in the diaspora because for the first time, you're getting to connect in a real way, in an intimate way with actual members of the THA executive who see you as a citizen of Tobago regardless of where you choose to live. And that's because we recognize that most people leaving the island of Tobago leave because of a scarcity of opportunity. We recognize that we have a challenge with having the largest outward migration rate in the Caribbean region. And so we know we have to do something to attract back to the space as much of our homebred talents as is possible. We have to attract that back to this space. And so it's unfortunate the direction the DCS went. As I said, I'm not going to theorize about what motivated that, but I'm very clear in my mind that we gave as much help as we could give. I am also clear in my mind that when the issue was raised about people not having access to meals because of how they arrived there and the accommodation wasn't available for them and their booking fell through and so on, no fault of the THA, that they end up expending monies outside of their budget to get things done. And I also acknowledge that I made intervention on that front, calling the right people to try to organize this thing for the citizens of Tobago, because regardless, they are citizens of Tobago. And the truth is, I am not even blaming them. I'm not blaming them. As a matter of fact, I will have you know this, after I met with Mrs. Allen Toppin and her team and indicated that we cannot sponsor in full, I subsequently met with the DCS and instructed the DCS to take up this matter and to manage this process for them, because he's in charge of diaspora relations. That's not the office of the Chief Secretary. So naturally, it falls under his purview, to which a vote was assigned and all of those things. And therefore, this should not have been happening. And if he's out there with them, as he is, because he returned and then he went back again for meetings with the mayor of New York and Al Sharpton and a couple other persons in the space, as the DCS out there, his responsibility is to try to coordinate the efforts to alleviate their pains, not mount a platform and behave as if you have to mount a campaign for them to get the assistance. You are part of the executive too. And so you have to take some responsibility for helping them out. Notwithstanding, the commitment of the executive to them was not to just carte blanche, a carte blanche kind of support. Notwithstanding that they are in a crisis, they need some help, that's what the THA is here for. You spoke to us at the end of the executive meeting, and by the way, DCS, when I called you, I had you on speakerphone for those in the room to also hear the conversation and understand the gravity of the situation being meted out at the point in time with those in the area. And so I want to be able to say to all of you that we have been helping. We help them to the tune of 400,000. There's a need for food. I reach out to some principals in New York to assist, and my information is that they are in fact assisting as we speak, so they are getting the help. So the same Chief Secretary called before he even made a video, reached out and ensured that that help was meted out to them. Because one of the good things about this diaspora thing is that we're creating a network so that we have any Tobagonian there, because we understand, yes, there's a consulate in New York for our citizens, and there is an embassy in Washington, D.C., and we have embassies and consulates and high commissions all over the world. We understand that. But once upon a time, there used to be a Tobago desk at all of these consulates and embassies. That was removed, right? Somebody thought it wasn't wise to give a Tobago desk at these stops. In the absence of that, we have to create this sort of a network of our diaspora people, so that wherever our people are, in whatever challenges they may encounter, they are assured that the THA from Tobago could call somebody out there or somebody across there to give the assistance that is needed. But certainly know that this THA will not send anybody to the US or anywhere for them to starve. I will never do that. And let me tell you how much I will not do that. As a matter of fact, in terms of how I operate, wherever I go, I stop to ensure that even those workers with me, those service providers, that they get things to eat. Where even if I'm not eating, I stop in to make sure they eat. So all the security with me, the driver with me, I ensure that they eat. Because very often we forgot them. So much so to the point that when I was at the Agro Expo, we went all day. And I was up and down with the dignitaries and so on. And it's only in the night I remembered or realized that the driver and the security didn't eat. And I was profusely apologetic, because it's not in my nature for anybody to go anywhere and starve. It's food. It's food. It's one place the food will go. After it provides nutrition to the body, after it provides nutrition to the body, is one place it will go. So it's not that serious. My point is, this THA did not deliberately allow for anybody to starve out there in New York, right? No, we did not allow for anybody to starve. We did our very best. We gave handsome support. We supported handsomely. In fact, it's handsome, it's pretty, it's all kind of thing. The support we gave. And we will continue to support our NGOs and our CBOs as you branch out. So now I can take your questions. Of course, we start with Elizabeth Williams.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chief Secretary.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hope you get over your colds.
Thank you.
Soon. Yes, what I wanted to ask, and I know you went into great detail, in terms of Mr. Duke and his trips in the US, is the THA paying for these trips? And are you disappointed in the video that Mr. Duke made in terms of going forward? And would you confirm that he has gone against the mandate that you allowed all your members, secretaries and assistant secretaries, to sign?
I think I was quite detailed about treating with the issue with Mr. Duke. I could tell you about his trips. The last one he went on, he received no subvention, no per diem, nothing from the THA, although he was going to have official meetings for which the THA received an invitation, official meetings with the mayor of New York and some other dignitaries within the New York space, notwithstanding that his division has not provided him with any sort of support for that trip. So that has been completely out of his pocket. The reality is, once a member of the THA is traveling on official business, representing the THA and Tobago on official business, it must and should be paid for by their respective division. Whether it's Mr. Duke, whether it's Farley, whether it's anybody else, it must be paid for by the division. That comes with the nature of the job. I am certain people are not even counting the amount of times ministers are leaving for critical businesses. And you notice when I went to Barbados, I made it a point for them to put in the press release that I paid for my trip myself, right? Communications, people thought that that was not proper information to communicate, but I wanted to communicate it so that nobody could have said THA paying for my vacation. I will also let you know that if I'm going to Trinidad on private business, once I don't have an official invitation to an engagement in Trinidad, I pay for my own ticket and I just pay for my own stay. Once it's not official, once I'm not going to attend any official function, any official meeting, I pay for my own stay and my own visit to right there in Trinidad. And I will also add, if there are moments when I am down in Trinidad and My wife desired to come and join me. If she was not on the official invitation, I just go down by Kong Point, by the airport, and pay for she ticket, and pay the extra cost for a room, because no taxpayer paying for me to joyride anywhere. But once it is official business of state, the division should pay for it. So really and truly, him being out there now and having met with some of those dignitaries, the mayor of New York has more people under his purview than the whole of Tobago, than any chief secretary. In fact, the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, that is a big deal. That is a big deal. And rightfully, the division should have paid for that. He shouldn't have paid for that out of his own pocket, but he did, right? And certainly that must count for something insofar as commitment to task. But what we cannot accept, certainly, is the outbursts that are not grounded in facts and grounded in truth and grounded in the reality of the situation. That just seeks to stir up noises in the space that are not consistent with the mandate that we have. Ms. Jackson?
Hi, good afternoon, Chief Secretary. Well, my questions are, now this is 9 months into your administration. Is this situation indicative of a breakdown in relationship between yourself and the Executive Council and Mr. Duke? Also, how will you treat with the fallout? Because this is going to cause a major fallout, and it is not creating a good image for your administration. So how are you guys going to be able to treat with this and sort of, save face in a sense and to move on? And also, what are the reactions right now? How is the Executive Council feeling about this situation?
One, the entire Executive Council, save and except for the DCS, is here. There are 9 Executive Council members, the Chief Secretary, Deputy Chief Secretary, and 7 other secretaries, and we are all here, save and except for the DCS, who is out of the country. So that should say something to you. Secondly, I really and truly don't see this as cataclysmic as you might think it will be, because I gave a commitment when we campaigned that if it's one government that will be able to self-correct, is this one. Is this one, right? And that has been a firm policy of mine. It has always been the way I have operated. I've always operated on the wavelength whereby if I think something is wrong, I say it is wrong, and we self-correct and move on. If it's wrong, and I know it's wrong, I apologize, we self-correct and we move on. I don't see this as cataclysmic at all in terms of the governance. The other thing is, one thing God blessed us with was 14 out of the 15 seats. So God knew exactly what he was doing, exactly what he was doing. Thirdly, I don't know what face saving will be required, because when you look at this administration, we have certainly been the most progressive administration the Tobago House of Assembly has ever had. The most progressive. And let me add this to you. Some of the things we have achieved in 9 months, others struggled for 21 years and couldn't bring it to pass. In 9 months. Look at all of those healthcare workers who now getting 3-year contracts. 9 months. Look at the European CPEP getting salary wages that are above their counterparts in Trinidad, to the point where when I saw CPEP at the Agro Expo, they say, oh gosh, Chief, you're getting with trouble. The people only come in and asking for the raise of pay. I said, tell them put PDP in charge of the country and they will get a raise of pay. 9 months. In 9 months. Within 9 months, we were able to patch all those holes on the road. Within 9 months, we're looking to start new road infrastructure. How many new roads, where roads did not exist before, were built over the last 21 years? But in 9 months, we are about to do that. In 9 months, we gave out over $10 million in home improvement grants. In 9 months, we gave out over $10 million in home improvement grants. In 9 months, we also increase the threshold limits for those with the food card, and we have a tier system based on the need, so that a family of 5 isn't treated the same way as a family of 2 or a family of 1. In 9 months, we were able to do that. In 9 months, the maxi taxi drivers were up and down protesting in court. Every Monday morning, sugar in court, right? And guess for 25 years, endless back and forth between the maxi taxi drivers and the THA. They can't get paid on time. I know, I travel with maxi taxi, so I know all the years and all the times they used to have to park up and strike to get the money that they didn't get for 6 months. That stopped. That stopped, and that happened in 9 months when people sit down here for 21 years and could not fix that. So this administration in 9 months has made some significant inroads in some significant policy areas that impacting the lives of people. We have already given out units that are preparing to be constructed now. In 9 months, we're looking to redo the Shaw Park Food Hub, and that will be launched tomorrow. You'll see that tomorrow with Secretary Charles Fantin. What will become of the temporary market that was in Shaw Park? In 9 months, you will see that. Right now, I am reviewing a proposal for the refurbishment of the botanical gardens. Happened in 9 months, because the project about developing Scarborough is well on the way with some implements. I also have right now on my desk that came in just this week, proposal from UDCOT to treat with parking and bringing the bank, FCB back downtown, and NIB and PTSC bus terminal. In 9 months, we have been doing all of that. And I'm saying, notwithstanding this issue, and of course, teeth and tongue will meet. And I have no, let me say this clear, very clear. I have no hatred for Mr. Duke. And let me say this very clear. I see Mr. Duke as a brother who I love dearly, and who maybe from time to time we will disagree, but I will do nothing that is injurious to Mr. Duke. But I will also do nothing that is injurious to the people of Tobago, and that has to come first. That has to come first. And so, trust me, this family is well on its way to delivering for Tobago in 4 years' time the best development bailout ever. And you have to observe how scared our opponents are, that they're still using the same tactics they used during the election. They're so dizzy with the new heights of development, they don't even know what to do with themselves. They can't give up the fake profiles. They can't stop slander we name. They can't stop twist stories here, there, and everywhere, because they have not seen this kind of political achievement and development thrust for the island ever. Visitors coming to the island, everybody saying, but this place just feels refreshed and new. Just look at the independence celebrations that we just had last week. The most beautiful thing ever. First time in a long time, we returned people to downtown Scarborough. And as I'm there walking, I'm seeing families walking hand in hand, little children there skipping along, people getting their things to eat, the commercial activity happening in this Scarborough space, just for an Independence Night. And I'm saying to you that we are not going to be distracted from the larger mandate of making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. We're not going to get distracted by that at all. And I will tell you, I want to take all 15 of us along for this journey. All 15 of us I wish to take along for this journey. All 15 of us, I wish that we will get to that finish line. We have some ways to go. We're only 9 months in, and perhaps it's a good time to remind you that our next mandate Monday will be on the 19th of September. The last one should have been in June. And so what we did is that we had the mandate Monday coincide with the budget debate that happened in June. And of course, you know, they had a storm warning, and so that disrupted that activity. But on the 19th of September, which is the Monday before the budget day, we will have our next mandate Monday, so that you will see some of the gains we had over the last quarter. And perhaps one of the flaws that we have is that we don't celebrate our victories sufficiently. Because I'm sure if I didn't mention it today, you wouldn't know that Goodwood High School did not have a library for 6 years. And in 9 months, we did what they couldn't do in 6 years. I'm sure you wouldn't know that. And you see, because we cannot believe that self-praise ain't no recommendation, but sometimes, I guess you just have to toot your own horn and raise the signal high in politics so that people understand the kind of work that is getting done in this space. And so, thank you for that question, Miss Danielle, Shade Daniel.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chief Secretary. Yesterday on the Rise and Shine show, Minority Councillor Petal Benoit said that, well, is asking for auditing on the school repair program. Could you comment on that?
Okay, you were muffled for a bit, but I think you were saying something about someone was asking for an audit into the school repair program. Am I correct? Yes. All right, so yes. I think that was being asked, and that's not an issue at all. We're not afraid of any audit of any program at all. So that's certainly not a challenge at all. We could have it audited, and if the request is, and I'm assuming the request is coming from the minority, if the request is coming from the minority, I'm happy he finally understands what the term audit means. But if the request is coming from the minority, I'll be happy to engage an external auditor, not even internal, engage an external auditor to look into the school repairs program. And while I'm talking about that, we have to completely revisit the school repair program. The school repair program cannot be a July-August program. It has to be a year-round activity, because there are some things that we should not wait until school closes to do. There are some things that can be done on afternoons and evenings while school is still ongoing, so that there's a continuous maintenance schedule. I recall when Scarborough RC didn't open at the start of the last school term, I walked there, and in the presence, I had the secretary, I had the administrator, I had the PIU people, I had the procurement people, and I reminded them of the mandate that there should be a maintenance, a multidiscipline maintenance group coming out of the division that will help with the continuous monitoring and evaluation and checks at the schools. Sometimes a school AC down, we have to go and hire a contractor to do that. When if we had a multidiscipline unit, they could handle those small fixes that we would have to pay a contractor for, and it will cost us less. And at that time, I reminded the administrator then, I said, MSU is now stretched to the limit in terms of its capacity to do the bill-out. Administrator, as per the advice of MSU, hire the people on short term and let us move. Still ain't happen, right? And that's why I tell you sometimes it are things we sign off on, give instructions on since January, since December, and just sitting down on somebody's desk somewhere. But I am not blaming anybody who has it sitting down on a desk. I am taking responsibility, because when I give instructions now, I'm putting timelines on it, I'm following up on it, and you ain't do it, I just know what to do, right? Because the law gives me general and direct control of any division I lead. Furthermore, the law gives me general, direct, and control of the executive that I lead. And it's about time that we start to ensure that there's some greater productivity in this space. Mrs. Thompson-Forbes. Mrs. Thompson-Forbes, not hearing you. All right, Mrs. Thompson-Forbes, can you just check your microphone, please? Because we're seeing you unmuting, but we're not hearing you at all. So I think there might be a follow-up question from Ms. Williams, Elizabeth Williams. So I'll take Elizabeth Williams, Mrs. Forbes, and then I'll come back to you. So, Ms. Williams.
Hi, good afternoon again, Mr. Chief Secretary. I know that this Saturday is the launch of Carnival. Any budget, because I know you are the finance secretary, the man with the money. Could you tell us what is the budget allocation for the October staging of Carnival? And also going back to, well, someone is asking also about ex gratia payments. How soon will persons get ex gratia payments? And the other question is with Mr. Duke. I know that since the PDP has been in power, we have not seen Mr. Duke coming forward to speak with us in terms of at the Executive Council, as you have done on many occasions, to give us, as you promised, when persons travel up, when secretaries or assistant secretaries travel abroad, they will return and they will state exactly what the trip was about, etc. We have not seen Mr. Duke come to us in terms of reporting as to the various trips. How soon will that become a reality?
All right, so you asked several things there. Number one, well, let me start with the last question because I want to remember first. the question about reporting. Actually, what has been happening as well is that secretaries, once they travel, have been presenting written reports to the executive that are actually accepted as executive council minutes. So long after we are not here, because trust me, I am planning to be here forever, and I'm sure no one plans to be here forever. But long after we are not here, someone will be able to come on the back end and pick up those written reports, those details of the trip that were accepted by executive council. So that has been happening. So even if you didn't see a secretary come before the microphone, that has been happening across the board. I am certain when Mr. Duke returns, he will want to talk with you. I'm certain. So I'm certain you won't have to wait much longer for him to have a conversation with you. But there was nothing debarring him from having that conversation. In fact, by choice, he chose to not do a lot of these. And additionally, he's trying to work with his beloved in Trinidad. So I know that takes up significant chunks of his time. I'm trying to remember the previous question. Oh, the carnival budget. Right, so the executive did consider preliminary budget yesterday. But allow me to ask you to wait until Monday when the secretary will meet with you, because after sometime during this day, I know they have some meetings with some sponsors, and that's some good news I could tell you. We have sponsors coming on board, to the tune of $1 million in some cases, $500,000 in other cases, literally coming on board to sponsor the event. So the amounts of monies that we thought we would have to spend, we will not have to spend that. And so if I give you a figure now, I will give you an incorrect figure that will be inflated. And I don't want you to run away with a figure that's wrong. Because the figure I want the secretaries to give will be the figure of the actual spend of the THA. And of course, they will tell you the value, the quantum of sponsorships that they will also receive. But I know they have some meetings today. In fact, one happened up to this morning prior to this meeting. And I know they have some tying up to do on those ends. So as soon as the launch is finished, they will meet with you. And certainly they will be happy to tell you the cost. And also they will tell you some of the things that will actually cost for the carnival. Mrs. Thompson Falls, I'm seeing you again.
Good afternoon, Chisek.
Right, here you know.
I'm hoping you hear me now. Okay, so I know you went into great detail about the cultural group, the trip, but we just need some clarification. I know you said that over $400,000 was spent or is being spent thus far. But can you tell us how much was requested initially from the group, and how far have we dug into following the request? And how, I know you said you met with the group, but how was the request made? Was it in writing or just by meeting?
No, the request was made in writing from the group. The initial ask was just over $700,000 from the group. As of now, what we are expending on the group is $417.50, and that takes care of their accommodation and their air flight to and from New York. Right, so I think we have them. In fact, I mean, I know maths man, English I used to teach, but is a little over 50% that they have gotten in terms of assistance from the THA. And let me say this for all groups requesting. Number one, going forward, when you come and you make requests for assistance, especially these kinds of assistance, you will need to show proof that you are able to meet the rest of expenses yourself, right? So you can't just come, as of now, you can't just come and ask and hope to get the rest of resources. We will tell you what we can give, and you will have to prove to us that you can get the others before we give you anything, right? As top priority for giving will be our school groups. Those schools going out to represent the island. Those will be top priority, right? So, I mean, just coming here, I received message from the old school in Speyside, and I'm watching the secretary. Premier League football starting, I think, Wednesday, and most of the games will be in Trinidad. So that means that they have to travel down with the team. And the division already got a budget from all the schools and the deal, secondary schools that is, and they're treating with it as we speak. So those requests are not necessarily new or unheard of, but as a as a policy point going forward, we will require that you are able to prove that you can get the parts that we are asking you to get. All right, Carissa Douglas.
Pleasant afternoon, Mr. Augustine. I just have one question.
Sure.
As you touched on reports coming out of trips. I know sometime in the past, recently though, you mentioned that representative, maybe the secretary, or the assistant secretary of the Division of Tourism will be coming to give a report on the Grenada trip as to what came out of it, what results, maybe, and as relates to benefits for the island. Can you give an update as to when that report will be provided?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that is outstanding, and that too will happen next week. And in fact, the assistant secretary is reminding me that she has been on media talking about the trip already and giving some report on it. But next week when they have a press conference, you can ask again, so she can reiterate those issues. And also you will have the benefit of the chairs of the Carnival Committee next week as well, who will part of it. So they too can also give that, that request. I have the exact figure. One of my assistants sent me the exact figure. The exact figure they asked for was actually, the initial ask was 700 and something thousand, and then they revised it to $697,641.12. So still close to 700,000 in terms of the overall ask. And we did well to give sponsorship of a little over 50%. It is a large group. I will also tell you that initially, and that's the thing too, their communication with us was haphazard at times, because initially they communicated that they wanted to return on the 7th, and the 7th was yesterday they wanted to return, but they end up having some engagements later on, and we had to say to them, well, they need to write to us so that I could amend the minute and ensure the correct information is there, but they should be returning this weekend. We will provide all the help we can provide for them while they are there, and certainly when they return, I will want to meet with them when they return, because sometimes when children misbehave, you have to put them sit down and talk to them, and I love them. I love them very much, and who I love sometimes is not to chasten. Is a good moral principle to have, right? So that will work out there. All right, so I'm thinking this might be some follow-up questions. So for the follow-up questions, I will take Miss Williams, Miss Jackson, and then I will end with Mrs. Forbes. So those will be the final 3 questions. And before I take the question, let me remind you that Castara is still on this afternoon. They finally will get their independence celebration up in the north side, and if you realize, this administration has been trying that with all that we do to always put some activity up in the north to take care of those in the rural parts of the island, and the road will be open for the entire day to facilitate that. So Miss Williams, your final question, Miss Williams.
questions. Hi again, Mr. Chief Secretary. Thank you for having me once again. I know some time back you would have announced that August, you would have given us a sneak peek as to the audit report. Any idea in terms of anything that you can reveal so far in terms of the audit being done within the THA and also the ex gratia payments? I know persons are also asking about that.
Yes, it's actually when you started asking the question, I remembered your initial question about the ex gratia payment. I have announced in the House because the question was asked in the House, and I announced to the House that as we approach the end of the fiscal year, the fiscal year ends in the month of September, and the new one starts in October. When we approach the end of the fiscal year, I will give a date for that ex gratia payment. And so you can expect that date this month, as this month is the last month of the financial year. And so as announced in the House, I will make that announcement in this month. The House should resume later this month as well, coming off of the statutory July-August break. So it should meet in this month of September. We may meet once, we may meet twice. We can't say immediately how that will go because as we speak, the Assembly legislature, they are doing some work in the chamber to extend the horseshoe to allow for all members to be seated around the horseshoe, because as you will appreciate, the numbers increased and we could barely accommodate everybody. But we're doing some, what they call that, ergonomics, use of space, managing space, and proxemics to treat with that matter there. In terms of the auditing, while I have received some draft reports, and I have received some interesting draft reports, the final report is actually expected tomorrow, which is the 9th of September. The auditors last week gave the deadline. In fact, the auditors, I think on Friday, indicated that they want to provide that for us tomorrow, the final draft. When the final draft is provided, based on what I have seen in the draft reports, the first thing I will do is that I will be visiting some key law enforcement agencies across the country to hand deliver copies of the report. That's the first thing I will do. The second thing I will do is I will make the report public. And the third thing I will do is that I will be debating this report, putting it up for debate in the House, so that we can go through in fine detail the mess that was the emergency road resurfacing program and some of the other programs that we have. I will be making that available. Very true to form, I will be making it available. And I will say this, Tobago has to correct, we have to correct our behaviors. And I'm talking in third person plural because I am here now. And not only that, whether I'm here or not, we are all part of a systemic problem that allows that kind of behavior to fester. And I said it during the budget debate, and I'll say it again, that the same standard I'm holding for those that left before, I'm holding the same standards for this team. And I pray God that nobody on this team puts their hand in the cookie jar. Because if you're putting your hand in the cookie jar, you will be caught. And if you are caught, I will deal with you the same way I will deal with those opposite who have done similarly. It has to be a rule across the board. Because when we look at the matter of corruption globally, it takes significant chunks of countries' GDPs. And for a small island developing state like ours, it is quite worrying, the levels of corruption and the opportunity costs that we have for some of for the works that are actually needed. Take, for example, what we're doing in Castara now, and the kind of work we have to put on in Castara. That road in Castara going away years now, and it's not today it's going away. It's not just the rainfall that happened that take it away. That going away, donkey years, not that going away. And while that going away, we have people trying to choke out the eyes of the THA with some inflated contracts and people giving it. And I mean, I don't want to talk in detail about what I've seen so far, because I will. But there is an opportunity cost. The cost of that kind of corruption has impacted the island's ability to treat with some critical infrastructure issues. And that road in Castara is not the only one. We have about 2 or 3 in Moriah that require fixing. We have some going up east that require fixing. We're driving on some of these roads every day and don't know how these roads are really falling apart under our wheels. And we have not treated with these roads because people, for some reason, over the last 21 years, people didn't have time to spend on these critical infrastructure needs, but they had time to do all other manner of madness. But at the right time, I will treat that. But note that the first thing I'll do when I get the report, the official report, tomorrow, Friday, in my hands, will be to make some copies and distribute it accordingly. The second thing I will do will be to make it public. And the third thing I will do is to talk about it publicly and name some of the culprits publicly. Because trust me, if it's one person at courthouse closed, it's me. Ms. Jackson, your final question?
All right. Good afternoon again, Mr. Chief Secretary. I just want to find out from you, how are the conversations going with Caribbean Airlines and even the Port Authority to increase flights and ferries to the island, especially coming up to Carnival, because we're continuing to hear the complaints from people about not being able to get to Tobago. So I want to know where those conversations are at. And additionally, well, I don't know if you'll be able to use this platform to address it, but how will this situation with Mr. Duke affect the strength of the PDP itself going forward?
The last question, I don't know if this is not the appropriate place to address that. I try to stay clear of the party politics as much as possible from here, right? But the first question, I could tell you the conversation already started about increased numbers of flights. We have some promises that we will have some increased numbers, not just flights, but also sailings. I spoke briefly with the chair of the board of CAL about 2 weeks ago and indicated that he had to be out of the country for 2 weeks, and when he returned, he will honor my request for a meeting, because I've been meeting and talking to the CEO of CAL and those on the executing side. But we need to have that conversation with the board to try to work it out. And you are right. The demand is extremely high. The demand is high. The economics of the thing is there. And you could see how everybody can earn and win from this. In fact, the secretary will even announce you sometime next week that already, not even already within the space, we expect a cruise ship to be here coming from Trinidad with people, just so that we could meet that shortfall in terms of getting people to the island. So people will get to come up on a cruise ship and be in the space. And so we are pushing all envelopes, all buttons, all doors in trying to open up the Tobago space as much as possible for October. But also it has to open up beyond October. And I'm not saying that the volume of flights required or the volume of sailings required for October will be the same in November or December, but certainly it's more than what we have now, and it is something that we need to work with and have a conversation on. Just last week, I met with the Civil Aviation Authority, and we started having conversation about other carriers that wish to come into the Trinidad and Tobago space from international destinations, how that work, what the requirements are, and we have a commitment to set up a technical team so that all the carriers, because tourism has been engaging people from all over. We have carriers from Bahamas wishing to come here, carriers from out of North America, Europe, outside of CAL, outside of BA, outside of Virgin. And so we're even working on that end, because as we turn into the new fiscal year, Tobago space has to be opened up significantly. We can't, and I've said it a million times, we cannot have a service-driven economy where people do not have access and the movement of people is restricted. So certainly we'll treat with that accordingly. Mrs. Thompson-Forbes.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Augustine. Okay, so I know you said your executive would have signed a code of conduct. Is it that?
Members of my team signed a code of conduct. The code of conduct was signed actually during the election campaign, even before we won the election. So that was signed, and that was actually placed in the public space as the measure we will use to judge everybody. I could send you a copy of that code, and you will look at all the infringements on that code. But one of the things that that code speaks to as well is the issue of how we conduct ourselves insofar as the delivery that the THA did not treat anybody unfairly. And yes, I will not even blame the group themselves for what happened. Because you travel sometimes and things just happen. Let's be real. In 2005, I was traveling to Australia. And by the time I reached Australia, all my money lost. Every cent, and it wasn't red cent, right? All my US dollars lost. And after I'd taken time and save up all my US dollars, I got a nice per diem from the government to get me US dollars, and I get me cash. US dollars wasn't hard to get like now. And I packaged me thing. When I got to Australia, I realized my envelope with all my money lost. So I am in Australia with $0, 0 cents. I owned no credit card at the time, nothing, right? And so a situation happened. So things happen when you travel that they don't cater for, and I understand and appreciate that, So I am not knocking the group at all. I'm not saying to the group that they're wicked or anything like. No, I'm not saying that. Things happen. They made a booking for a bed and breakfast that was to accommodate all of them. They got there on the night sometime after close to midnight, and they were there almost on the street till after 9 the next morning. They didn't cater for that. It's not their fault the person didn't answer their phone. It's not their fault the proprietor they made the booking with didn't follow up with them on the booking. And it's not their fault that some of them could not stay in the basement and had to use whatever money they had in their pocket to pay for accommodation. So now their budget run low and they don't have the meals. So I am very much appreciative of circumstances that happen that knocks us off our feet. I'm appreciative of that. But it cannot be that we're sending a signal that the THA so wicked and did not help, that we just drop them in that circumstance. It is not our fault why that circumstance happened. The circumstance happened, and we're just trying to do our best to assist them. And I have no issue with that at all. Where I take an issue, where I take umbrage with, is the reflection on this matter, as though somehow the THA just wickedly turned their backs, when in fact we have gone above and beyond in our assistance to them. And I'm sure the next question that people will start to jump and ask is, how come we give them so much money, right? How come we give them so much help, right? But the truth is, we give lots of people help. We don't always talk about it in the public space. We don't come every time we give a group a check and take a photo. We assist. And as I'm saying, we are trying to avoid giving groups themselves checks, but we're trying to pay for their services, because that is the best way to allow for the accountability that is required. It's just unfortunate that this has turned out to be this spectacle, but the spectacle at home. But certainly, I think the Roxy folk performers, they're doing an exceptional job out there. They have gone beyond the Tobago diaspora and they are performing for other Caribbean diaspora communities while they are there. And so the engagement is extremely fruitful, no doubt at all. And we will support them as much as is possible and practical. I said final, but final, Ms. Danielle.
Hi again. I would like to have your thoughts about the Queen being put under medical supervision.
I'm not the best person to ask. I'm not the best person to ask these questions because I am the last person to really follow up on royal affairs. Trinidad and Tobago is a republic. Weeks and what's happening in my space. So I really don't have sufficient information. I am at a loss if she's put under medical conditions, medical watch. I'm not sure. I pray God watch over her soul, but that's as best as I could offer because I am not a monarchist by any stretch of the imagination. So thank you all very much. Thank you all for participating in this press conference. And again, you will hear from me by tomorrow. Thank you. God bless you.